friends. Hello, hi, how are you? Hope you're having a better year than I am. Hello, hi. I am coming to you today. It is Sunday morning and I have not filmed content for this channel in a minute. That's not true. I filmed content for this channel, but it's not scheduled to go up till next month. We're gonna get into that. But I haven't filmed a video for this month yet, and I was going to film a couple today to try to get some videos up before the end of the month. But I just feel like there's sort of a lot right now that is weighing on my mind, I guess you could say. And I feel as if I want to just sit down and sort of talk about the year from hell that I've had and just like kind of explain what's going on. I know and fully understand that just because I am a person with a platform does not mean that I have to tell everyone details about my life. I don't necessarily owe people an explanation, but I also feel like number one, if you've been following me for a long time, it's probably a little confusing and weird to just see that I've like disappeared, especially if you followed me like a few years ago when I was posting like 5 videos a week and now it's nothing. So I do feel being able to explain that is important, and just kind of explain like why that's been happening is important. And I also think before we go into December, which is the month that I usually do Glowmas, I think that it's important for me to just kind of lay out what's been going on. I also think that because this is where it gets dicey too, is like, again, I don't owe people an explanation on my life, but also you're gonna have so many questions if I don't just tell you. Like, I'll post something and there's like a million questions of people being like, I think we've missed a few chapters and like, what's going on? Because it is confusing if you don't know what's been happening. So I just wanna make a video for YouTube. I just wanna like put it all out there so it's like all the information's in one place. You don't have to like go to Twitter to figure out what's going on. I also know most of you don't follow me on Twitter, so you still have no idea what's going on over there. But yeah, I just want to put all the information in one place. I want it to be just this video, and then I would like to not have to speak about it to anyone but my therapist. Also do just want to give one more disclaimer that I've thought a lot about this video and about restricting comments on this video, like turning off the comment section. I've decided I'm not going to do that, mostly because I think that, especially for people who have been following me for a long time and have also followed the journey with my now ex-husband, you're going to have a lot of thoughts or things you might want to say, and I want to make sure there's a place to do that that I necessarily might not look at, not because I don't appreciate supportive, kind comments, mostly because if there are mean comments, I quite literally just like can't do it. Like, I can't read negative, mean comments about myself or my ex in this situation because neither of us deserve to read those comments. And yeah, so if I'm not as active in this comment section, it's not because I'm not very thankful for what I'm sure will be a lot of support on this video. It is more so like a preservation of my own mental health. But I also don't want comments to bleed into other videos. Like, I don't want there to be a million comments about this on like the next video I post because this comment section wasn't open. You know what I'm saying? So it's just better to have like a place where people can talk about it. But I might not necessarily read those. Anyway, I think this story requires a little bit of backstory just because a lot of people didn't even know that I was married in the first place, because it was kind of a confusing thing. So back in 2021, I turned 26 and my fiance at the time was Charles, who has been on the channel a bunch. He had his own channel for a while. We had a podcast together. Him and I were already planning on getting married, and we were supposed to be getting married in the summer of 2021, but we had to push our wedding due to COVID, just out of an abundance of caution. We wanted to make sure that we were not putting him at risk because he was immunocompromised, and we also wanted to make sure that we weren't putting any of our guests at risk, or like anyone. So we pushed our wedding, our like official big ceremony situation, until the summer of 2022. However, I lost my health insurance and I needed health insurance, and also we just wanted to be married. Like, we didn't want to wait. We didn't want it to be this 3-year long, 2-year long engagement. Like, we wanted to be married, and that was our plan. So in March of 2021, we had a very small ceremony at a park. We said vows. His brother officiated. It was literally just my mom and my dad, and his mom, his dad, and his stepdad. A few other family members watched it on Zoom, but it was literally like an 8-person ceremony at a park that lasted like 10 minutes. And we were married. We officially got married. We didn't really talk about it on the internet. I think I tweeted about it at one point because people were very confused, as I understand why it was a little confusing the way that we did it. We didn't want to announce that we were having any sort of gathering at that point in time, even if it was just 8 people who were all wearing masks. The only people who weren't wearing masks were me and Charles when we said our vows. But I still was like not wanting to promote that. And also, we still were planning this very big party that was going to be like an official wedding ceremony and party, and it was like this 4-day event that I was planning and I was going to be documenting for YouTube, and like that was like the big thing that I wanted to talk about, and that was the thing I was the most excited about in terms of like the wedding part, because the wedding in the park, what was very cute, that was our official wedding, obviously. We also had this other big thing planned. I think sometimes I forget that in social media, if you're not clear about things, it can be very confusing. And I talked at length on YouTube. I made multiple videos about my wedding and wedding planning and picking out my dress, and I reacted to dresses I said no to. Like, I did all of those videos. So people were confused, I think, when I said like, oh, I'm getting a divorce, because they were like, we didn't even know that you got married yet, sister. And I'm like, right, that's my fault. I should have made it more clear. But anyway, March of 2021, we got married legally, and we were still planning this big ceremony in 2022. I went and like got my dress. I, did all the whole thing. And then in the fall of 2021, things just started deteriorating a little bit. And I am going to say this right now. I'm not going to go into any detail about my relationship and why it was deteriorating and what happened. And I will also never in a billion years speak a singular bad word about Charles, my ex. I know he would also never say anything publicly about me, and I will never say anything publicly about him. Even though I think there's a lot of sometimes anger in divorces and separations and breakups, that's between him and I. And also, I still love him. Like, we had 6 amazing years together. We spent so much time together. His life and my life were basically the entirety of my early, mid, and late 20s. Like, I dated him for basically the entirety of my so far adult life. And I will never speak ill about him because he has given me so much. Like, everything that I was able to accomplish, he was by my side for all of that, and vice versa with him. Everything that he's accomplished, I was right there with him as his support system. Even though it ultimately did not work out, that doesn't mean that I don't still have a lot of love in my heart for him, and I know he feels the same way. I also know that if I needed anyone in the world and I needed something, I could call him and he would be there. Like, that's why I feel like I saw a couple of comments when I posted about this on Twitter. People were like, I don't understand why people pretend that they're still, friends or whatever. It's like, because I genuinely believe that this is the most amicable divorce that could possibly be happening for us right now. There have been bumps in the road, but like, he's still one of my best friends and one of my people, and I will never, ever, ever talk about details of why we ended up separating, nor any of that. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't think that's anyone's business. But anyway, in the fall, things started deteriorating a little bit, and then in May, I went on my trip to Costa Rica with my friends. It was technically my bachelorette party because I was supposed to be getting married in July of 2022. So in May, I went on this big trip. And a lot of bad stuff happened on that trip. I made a video talking about the fact that I had a miscarriage, and obviously, that was a very difficult thing to talk about, and it still is. But that happened, and then a lot of other things happened. And basically, towards the end of May, we decided mutually that we needed to separate. And at that point in time, it wasn't like we're calling divorce lawyers. It was like, we're separating. Like, we just need to be separate for a little while. We need to figure some things out. What's going on with us right now is not working, and we have to figure that out. So we were separated, and we were still both living at this house. He was just living in a different room, and I was in a different room, and we weren't really seeing each other. We were kind of doing our own thing. And then as the kind of time went on, it became clear there was a point in time in May and June where we didn't know what to do, because our wedding ceremony that we had been planning for 2 years was supposed to be happening in early July, and we didn't know if we should like go through with this wedding, because we were already married. We were like, should we go through with this wedding ceremony? We've spent so much money on it, or should we cancel? And then we have to tell our entire family. I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up. There was this time, this awful period where like we didn't know if we were going to stay together. We didn't know if we wanted to tell our entire extended family that we were separating, because it was like, well, what if we don't? What if we can make this work? None of our friends really knew what was going on. I think both of us told like one person each what was going on, but other than that, like nobody knew that this was all happening. And so then it kind of became clear that it was just not gonna work. And so we canceled the wedding. Which if you're gonna divorce, I would highly recommend not doing it right before you're supposed to have a wedding, because one of the worst parts about the whole thing was having to tell my literally every person I know in my fucking life that I'm separating from someone, when I was not ready to do that, nor did I didn't want people to know about it yet. I wanted to be able to tell people on my own terms. And I quite literally was like not afforded the ability to do that because of the circumstances. And neither was he. He was not able to, tell people in his own time and process things in his own time. It was much more, like we just had to tell everyone basically. And then it was like, well, now everyone knows, like that sucks. So we canceled our wedding, which was awful. Literally like worst thing I've had to deal with. I'm actually so thankful to a couple of my friends who like really stepped up and like contacted vendors and contacted the people involved. And my parents and his parents were amazing helps in just like making sure that we did not have to deal with that. And I am so forever grateful to them for helping us do that, because it was already so fucking terrible that we were separating. And then I think to have to go through the process of like canceling all of the wedding would have just been atrocious. So our support systems were really amazing during that time, and it was really wonderful to have that. But we officially separated, and then over the summer, it was just a really weird time because we knew we were not going to get back together, and then we were still living here together at the house in different rooms, but like it was just a weird time. I don't think that's, I think Charles would agree with this heavily. I don't think it's healthy to do that. It made it a billion times harder to be able to like go through the emotions of a breakup when you're still like walking into the kitchen and that person's right there. It made it really, really difficult for us to navigate everything. And that was really difficult and hard. And I definitely fell into like a severe depression during this time, because I mean, I think that's pretty normal. Pretty normal to just like go through something like that and feel, it's kind of like a double whammy, because it was like the miscarriage happened and then this happened and then whatever. I keep saying this year is the year where I feel like I can't catch a fucking break. That's kind of how I keep describing it. Because then in July, the week that our wedding was supposed to happen was literally like, I had planned this trip with my friends. So I would be out of town on the actual weekend that the wedding was supposed to happen. And Charles had planned this like party that he was going to have at the house. And we were both basically making plans to keep ourselves busy on the day that the wedding was supposed to happen, because we both knew it was going to be really challenging, because it was, we were supposed to be having the most beautiful, wonderful day, and like we were not having that. So I planned this weekend trip with my friends. The morning that I was supposed to leave for the trip, I tested positive for COVID. I've gone the entire pandemic not having COVID. Still to this day, it like absolutely enrages me that I got it. It was such horrific timing, because Charles is immunocompromised, obviously. So I basically moved out of the house for 10 days and lived in a hotel for 10 days. So I spent the weekend that was supposed to be my wedding weekend completely isolated and alone in a hotel, just like crying a lot. Because it was like, it was just a whole thing. It was just like one whammy after another during the summer, where like I finally felt like I was coming back and I was getting back into like my job, which is this, like I was finally becoming a human again. And then it was like, you have COVID, surprise. And then also during that time, my uncle passed away super unexpectedly. Like it was so, like right before I got COVID, my uncle had passed away super unexpectedly. He was my godfather, and I had to drive down to Virginia for a funeral, and it was just horrific, like, because it was so unexpected and so sudden and such a crazy thing that nobody expected. So that was terrible, having to like, you know, deal with all of that, and then coming home from a funeral that was really hard, and immediately getting COVID and having to isolate during a time when all I wanted was to not be alone because of the timing of everything. And also my experience with COVID was like not great. It was actually pretty bad and a little scary at some points. I'm very lucky in that I immediately got the COVID pill that they give you, and I was able to get that, and I was able to not have too bad of an experience. But I was sick for a really long time after the fact. I had what they would consider long COVID, just because for a long time after, I still have like little flare-ups where I like have really bad coughing fits, or my throat really hurts, or just like I can't breathe sometimes the right way. So that was all really terrible. And also the fear that I have had of getting COVID for the last 2 years, for then it to happen, was just awful. Terrible. So that was my July. And then August and September and October have all just gone by in this crazy blur, because in September, Charles officially moved out. He no longer lives at the house. I do still live with 2 other people. 2 of my really good friends live with me now, and I love living with them. It's actually very nice. I think if I've done on my vlog channel like house tours and stuff. I don't know if those videos are still up. I took a lot of them down. But I've done like house tours and stuff. My house is relatively large because I bought it with the intention of a lot of other things. So I live with 2 other people now, 2 of my really good girlfriends, and I really love living with them. It's been like a saving grace during this time. But obviously Charles moving out was really hard, because it was kind of like having to start all over. I've equated it to the best example I've given in therapy about it, because I was trying to explain my emotions behind him leaving. And him actually being gone from this house, and like the actual genuine separation that we now had. I was talking about it in therapy, and I was like, it kind of feels like when someone dies, you have that initial shock, but then you get so busy having to like plan a funeral and coordinate guests coming into town and figuring out like all of these details that you have to go through. And it's almost like you don't even have time to really grieve that person in those few days after they pass, because you're so busy doing other things, and you're so like, it doesn't even really feel real yet. And then after the funeral is over, and after the wake is over, and the burial and all of that is over, it's like the next day when suddenly there's nothing left to do for that person, and that whole relationship is just gone. The feeling of grief that you experience the day after a funeral is like the freshest form of grief I think you can have. And I've equated him moving out and that actual separation to that feeling of like, for so many months, it was like, just there was stuff to do always between the 2 of us. We had to figure all these things out, and it was like trying to figure out the logistics of everything, and how we're going to do everything, and how we're going to do this, how we're going to talk to social media about this. Like, and then as soon as he was actually gone, it was just this moment of just like, oh, this is when it's really going to be fucking terrible. Like, I thought the last few months were hard, but like, no. These are going to be the hardest months, for sure. And they have been. They've been awful. It's been such a horrible adjustment to come to terms with. Like I said, we were together like 6 going on 7 years. So to go through so much of your life with one person and having that person be your person for that long has just been really terrible. To not have that anymore. It's just been awful. I say that because I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling. I think a lot of people who have been through a big breakup, or have been through a divorce, or have been through losing anyone in your life like that, where it's like losing any relationship, I think you can really relate to the feeling of just this like, just this emptiness that you go through. And I think for me too, I have a lot of, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, But I also feel like I need to stop being embarrassed to say things because these are my genuine feelings and I cannot be the only person in the world who feels these things. I need to stop like low-key gaslighting myself into thinking that like I'm so stupid for feeling this way, because I just know that I'm not the only person that has felt this way after a divorce or a breakup or something like that. But I think a lot of it has been in terms of like my job and doing social media and, you know, doing all these other things that I've been trying to do. I think the reason that working especially has been so hard for me is not only because I just have this constant internal imposter syndrome, but I think that when everything happened and I kind of like lost that relationship, my imposter syndrome got boosted by a billion, where I started thinking that everything I was ever able to do and everything I was capable of doing was because I had Charles by my side. He was a driving force and a huge supporter in me getting my bachelor's degree. He has helped me in this channel in so many ways in terms of just support and being there for me and watching my videos through before I post them and making sure that I'm mentally okay, making sure that I'm like posting consistently, pushing me a little bit to post a video even if I don't feel 100% with it, because he knows that I'm never gonna feel 100% about it. And I think there was a part of me that felt like I've only built the things that I've built because of this person that I'm with and because he really helped me. And now that he's not here, I don't have a lot of faith in myself that I can do it without him. I really was not anticipating crying. I'm so sorry. I talk about these things in therapy all the time and I don't cry. I don't know why when I'm talking to a camera, I'm getting so emotional. I do. I have this like I have this like deep-rooted fear that now that he's not in the picture, I can't do any of these things that I've been doing before, like that I'm not capable of doing them. And I know that that's not true. Like logically, I'm like, that's not true. Like you absolutely can do these things, like 100%. I'm more than capable of doing them. I'm more than capable of being successful. I just still have that fear. That's the little voice in your head that's like, no, you're not. And that's something I'm working really hard to get over, but it's not easy to get over. I think because of the circumstances of like a lot of my life, a lot of my big accomplishments and achievements happened when I was with Charles. And now it's like, it's just scary. It's scary to do it all alone. It's scary to even think about doing it alone. It's like the most horrifying thought to think that I'm capable of doing these things alone because I've never had to and I don't know if I am. So all of that to say, I know that in December, I usually do this thing called Glowmas, where I post a video every single day in the month of December. And doing Glowmas is hard when I am in a good headspace. So as you can imagine, planning for Glowmas this year has felt very daunting. However, this will be my 5th year in a row doing Glowmas, and I will be damned if I don't at least try. If I don't at least try to do this for 5 years in a row. Next year, it's done. Like, we're not gonna do this next year. Next year, we're probably gonna go down to like every other day or something. This year though, we're gonna try it. We're gonna attempt it. I really, really wanna make it clear that I am gonna do my absolute very best to make this Glowmas one of the best ones I've ever done. I have been putting in a lot of work and effort into scripting and filming and trying to be as prepared as humanly possible to accomplish. I'm looking over here because my calendar for Glowmas is on my desk. Just a bunch of Post-it notes with to-do lists on it. And I've been trying my hardest to make sure that I can make this a thing that happens. And I know that some people might think that's a bad idea because it might be trying to do too much too soon, especially because my posting has been so sporadic. I do want to say that I think I need to do something like this. I need to push myself a little bit and I need to prove to myself that I can do these things and still do Glowmas without another person being there. Like, it's something for me personally that I really want to do. I love doing it. I usually love doing Glowmas. This year it's been a little stressful to think about, but it's just something I want to do for myself. But I guess I would also just ask for maybe a little bit of grace if there's like a video that doesn't go up a day. I don't want it to feel like I'm lying to you guys and saying that I'm gonna post 31 videos and then I post like 27. So I just want to make it clear that like I'm gonna do my absolute best to make it happen, but also I guess just not make promises I can't keep. So it's gonna be the best that I can possibly make it. It's gonna be the best that I can do, and I'm still gonna try it. But also, please don't get mad at me. if I miss a day or something. I have a lot of anxiety around talking about these things and posting them, but I've said this before, I genuinely feel so lucky and blessed to have the platform that I have. And even though right now there's a lot going on for me and there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of mental health struggles, I do just want to say that I love the fact and I love being able to make these videos because I feel so lucky that I can maybe make it seem a little bit more normal to go through a bad time and to have a bad stretch. Because I don't actually have a singular friend this year who like isn't going through it. Like all of my friends in different ways are going through something. And I feel like to be able to normalize going through hard times and normalize the emotions that come with it, I'm never going to think that that's a bad thing to do. Like normalizing mental health struggles, normalizing pain through a breakup, normalizing that in a very honest way is honestly a privilege for me to be able to get on camera and talk about. So I just want to thank you guys for allowing me that privilege. I want to thank you guys for supporting me, even though I have been so fickle with content lately. The fact that I can go months without posting a video and then I do post one and it performs above anything I could have expected is just this, it's huge for me that people still come and watch the content when it's ready, even if it's not consistent. I cannot express enough how much I appreciate that and how thankful I am for that. It just means a lot, I guess, is all I want to say. In a very non-parasocial way, thank you for doing that, for showing up for me still, even though I know that I ghost from time to time. I do still have a couple videos going live this month that I'm really, really excited about. We are going to talk about Love is Blind Season 3. I believe that video is going live on Wednesday because I know a lot of you really, really want me to talk about it. And I have a lot of opinions about it. And then we have a couple more videos before the end of the month. And then we'll be jumping right into Glomus. But yeah, this was just, I guess, a life update I felt I needed to give before I really started posting again. Didn't feel right to make, even with my Try Guys video, it felt so awkward to just post that and then leave for 2 weeks because I don't know, it just felt weird to do that. It didn't feel right to post something like that and then just bail again with no context of what's going on. So this is what's going on. I do want to say Charles is going to be watching this video before I post it, so there's nothing that will be said that he did not consent to being said. I want to make that very clear. I would never, again, talk about him or post about him in a negative way, and I would also never make a video like this without conferring with him first, because we still very much have a lot of respect for each other. I do also just want to say, I saw on Twitter a few people ask this, but we are sharing custody of our dogs. So we both still get our dogs. Nobody's taken the dogs from anyone else. We both absolutely adore our little babies. And they still live very happy lives. Just sometimes they are with their dad and sometimes they're with their mom. So the dogs are fine. Just as like a little update on that. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about, but I don't think there is. Sorry if this was like a little more emotional than normal. Again, I don't know why I got so emotional filming this, but it's just been a fucking year. And I'm really hoping to just close it out on a positive note by making this Glomus the best I possibly can. I love you guys so much. I hope you like this video. And yeah, feels weird doing my normal outro because like 90% of the shit isn't applicable anymore. But go check out my social justice spotlight down below. And yeah, I love you guys a lot. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!